Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Here are your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for Eslon Polygon by name.
Russian Deputy Foreign Minister arrives in Sri Lanka. Mahinda, Maithripala, Gotabaya and Sajith unite as Gammampila reveals truth on Easter attack mastermind. Easter attack probe on the right track. Public urged to share information with CID. Cabinet spokesperson says, who is behind the coal deal? Civil organization reveals new details.
ඕට දැක ගන්න ලැබිලා තියෙනවා මේ වර්තමානයේ ගණලඟුරු ටෙන්ඩරය පිරිනමලා තියෙන විදේශීය සමාගමේ දේශීය නියෝජිතයින් සම්බන්ධයෙන්.
One match, 1 point. Sri Lanka cricket post under scrutiny over alleged cronyism.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for Eslon Polygon by name.
Now to look at your stories in detail. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko arrived in the country this evening for an official visit.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko arrived in the island to participate in the 11th session of bilateral political consultations between Sri Lanka and Russia. The session is scheduled to be held the day after tomorrow at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Sri Lanka, the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister and special delegates from both countries are expected to attend the session. The Foreign Ministry further noted that the session will involve extensive discussions on future challenges and strategies to overcome them across several sectors, including the economy, politics, culture, trade and tourism of both nations. To welcome Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko, the Deputy Minister of Ports and Civil Aviation, Engineer Jonitharuwan Kodithuwakku and the Russian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Levan Zagarian among others were present at the Katunayake Bandaranaike International Airport. Andrei Rudenko serves as the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister in charge of the Asia-Pacific region. He is expected to depart the island next Saturday.
Former Minister Uday Gammampila says that Zahran Hashim was the mastermind behind the Easter Sunday attacks. He made this statement during the launch of the book in which he claimed the mastermind would be revealed.
Former Presidents Mahinda Rajapaksa, Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Maithripala Sirisena attended the event where former Minister Uday Gammampila launched the book, claiming it would reveal the mastermind behind Easter attacks. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa also attended the occasion along with several other members of parliament from his party.
Zahran was the one who collected the explosives. The bombers were selected by Zahran. He also chose the sites to be bombed. Zahran facilitated the infrastructure and funds required for the attack. These facts that I speak of are included in an affidavit before a court in the United States. If Zahran Hashim is the one who did all of this, if he was acting as the head of IS in Sri Lanka and was acting at the behest of IS International, how can the mastermind behind the Easter Sunday attack be anyone but Zahran Hashim? Although there are those who try to say that someone else is the mastermind and derail the investigations, the evidence shows and logic only points to Zahran Hashim and Zahran Hashim alone.
වෙන කවුරුවත් කියලා මේ පරීක්ෂණ නොමග යවන්න කවුරුන් උත්සාහ කරත් සාක්ෂි තියෙන්නේ තාර්කිකව පේන්නේ සාරාන් හසීම් පමණමයි.
This is the response given by the cabinet spokesperson today regarding the book authored by former Minister Uday Gammampila concerning the Easter Sunday attacks.
පාස්කර දින ප්‍රහාරය සම්බන්ධයෙන් විමර්ශන නිවැරදි දිශානතියකට ගමන් කරනකොට සමහර පුද්ගලයන් කණ්ඩායම් කලබල වීම පුදුම වෙන දෙයක් නෑ. ඔවුන්ගේ පැත්තෙන් ප්‍රකාශයේවි, ඔවුන්ගේ පැත්තෙන් පොත් නිකුත් කරාවි, ඔවුන්ගේ පැත්තෙන් සම්මන්ත්‍රණ පවත්වාවි. ඒ සියල්ලගෙන් පෙන්눔 කරන්නේ පරීක්ෂණය හරියට යනවා කියන එක. මෙතුවක්කල් CID හොයාගන්න ගත්ත එකක් Taman දැනගෙන හිටියා නම් එය මේ ආයතන වල ඉදිරිපත් කරන එක තමයි නීතිඥයෙක් හැටියට එතුමා කළ යුතුව තිබුණේ. සහ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් හිටපු ඇමතිවරයෙක් හැටියට.
The People's Tomorrow organization made a disclosure in Colombo today regarding a coal purchasing deal. Now, while making this revelation, they also issued a challenge to certain individuals behind the transaction.
Regarding this coal crisis, we see that the Sunday Times newspaper published a detailed investigative article on the 1st March 2026. While conducting their fact-finding for this article, the Sunday Times discovered information regarding the local agents of the foreign company that has currently been awarded the coal tender. That local agent company is registered under the name of a local Buddhist monk. Upon looking into this monk, the Sunday Times revealed that he is not connected to just one business, but is a monk with links to numerous such businesses. Through this article on the Sunday Times website, they disclosed 2 other companies that this monk is associated with. Within that disclosure, a name that sounds somewhat familiar and well known to the ear is mentioned in relation to 2 other companies where this monk holds a directorship. That name is Rakita Nirmala Rajapaksa. While we leave the story there, we have now received information and photographs from recent days showing various parties of the country's remnant opposition engaging in a political discussion at a leading hotel in Colombo. We know that for a long time since the change of government, this opposition has been holding mansion conspiracies or various conspiratorial discussions in different places to topple the government. According to the information we have and the photographs shown, what has taken place is such a political discussion. Most likely the matters discussed therein pertain to these conspiracies. Now we see that a character named Rakita Rajapaksa is also involved in those political discussions. So we are asking Rakita Rajapaksa, is there any connection between you and the matter revealed by the Sunday Times newspaper? That is the question we are putting to Rakita Rajapaksa. We know the president recently stated that cartels have been created within various procurements and tender processes in this country, or that various groups of individuals have taken control of them. Although the president clearly pledged to break this up, the people of this country have a question. Have those same old cartels returned in another guise or as Trojan horses in a different form? Therefore, we ask Rakita Rajapaksa once again, what is the connection between you and the Rakita Rajapaksa revealed by the Sunday Times newspaper?
මේ Sunday Times පුවත්පත අනාවරණය කරන රකිත රාජපක්ෂ සහ ඔබ අතර මොකක්ද තියෙන සම්බන්ධය කියන එක.
Sailor Enterprises presents Russell Peters returns to Colombo for the Relaxed World Tour, 31st March 2026 at the all-new Lumina Hall in the City of Dreams, powered by the Australian Migration Consultants. Tickets out now on bookmyshow.com.
With a month having passed since the outbreak of the armed conflicts in the Middle East, many countries around the world are currently facing a severe energy crisis. A notable feature of this situation is that developing nations as well as developed nations are directly confronting this crisis.
South Korea.
South Korean President Lee Jae-myung announced today that he is prepared to issue emergency financial and economic orders, which can be implemented without prior parliamentary approval if necessary. Meanwhile, the president emphasized the urgent need to transition toward renewable energy.
If necessary, we could also make use of the emergency fiscal order provided for under the Constitution. In any case, I want to emphasize once again that we need to respond as swiftly and vigorously as possible to the fullest extent possible. This latest war in the Middle East has made it clear that the energy transition, that is the major shift to renewable energy, is no longer a national and historical task that can be postponed. If we continue to leave our current economic and industrial structure, which depends on fossil fuels, we will remain exposed to these kinds of geopolitical risks in the future as well.
The Korean government has also approved an additional expenditure of 26.2 trillion won to provide relief to families and small business owners affected by rising fuel prices. Reports also indicate that the government has decided to raise the current level 2 energy warning to level 3.
The United States.
For the first time in 4 years, the price of a gallon of gasoline in the United States has surpassed the $4 mark. A US gallon contains approximately 3.7 liters. Since the start of the conflict involving Iran, gasoline prices in the US have surged by 36%.
The United Kingdom.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called an emergency cabinet meeting this afternoon to discuss the economic impact of the ongoing war in the Middle East. Foreign media reported that he highlighted the need for a joint effort between the government and the business sector, noting that the impact of the war cannot be faced alone. Meanwhile, Britain has taken steps to maximize its wind energy capacity. Prices for petrol and diesel in Britain have also risen, and foreign media reported today that a fear of fuel shortages has emerged among the public.
Philippines.
The Philippine government has officially declared a national energy emergency as crude oil prices rise in the global market. The Philippines is also facing an import cost crisis due to the weakening of the Philippine peso. Electricity tariffs in the country have increased, and warnings have been issued regarding potential future power cuts.
Crude oil prices continue to rise.
Against the backdrop of a global energy crisis, crude oil prices in the world market surpassed the $100 mark again today. Brent crude oil is traded at $115.20 per barrel. WTI crude is traded at $106.10 per barrel.
Will the conflict in the Middle East end soon?
US President Donald Trump has threatened to obliterate Iran's power stations and fresh water plants if Tehran does not agree to peace terms shortly, even as he claimed diplomatic progress in ending the war that was instigated by the US and Israel. Tehran has remained defiant during the month-long conflict, describing US peace proposals as excessive, unrealistic and irrational, and firing waves of missiles at Israel. The risk of further escalation, including a US ground operation to seize Karg Island, continued to send tremors through financial markets. Oil prices are on course for a record monthly rise. In a post on his Truth Social network, Trump expressed confidence that a negotiated settlement would soon be reached, adding that the US was in serious discussions with what he characterized quixotically as a more reasonable regime in Tehran. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says Iran has been handed a golden opportunity for the regime to make a good deal with the United States.
Operation Epic Fury is moving ahead successfully and according to plan. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also decimating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 150 of their naval vessels so far, including 92% of their largest vessels. The Iranian Navy has no vessels operating in major regional waterways and no ability to project naval power, which is why they've been assessed as combat ineffective. Our military continues to obliterate Iran's defense industrial base, with nearly 70% of their missile, drone, and naval production facilities and shipyards damaged or destroyed thus far. The United States is conducting more intense, targeted strikes with devastating combat power with each passing day to destroy the threat posed by the Iranian terrorist regime, as President Trump sought out to do a month ago. Despite all of the public posturing you hear from the regime and false reporting, talks are continuing and going well. What is said publicly is, of course, much different than what's being communicated to us privately. As a result, President Trump issued a 10-day pause to postpone planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. This remains a truly once-in-a-generation opportunity for the regime to make a good deal with the United States, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and stop acting as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. If the Iranians reject this golden opportunity, the greatest military in the history of the world continues to stand by to provide President Trump with every option available to ensure this regime continues to pay a grave price.
The President posted this morning about his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might be blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett, and you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
To that end, which of those objectives would destroying a desalinization plant most help?
Haley, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to follow up on Iran. On Cuba, the president threatened to tariff any country that would send oil to Cuba, but now the U.S. is letting this Russian tanker to Cuba. Is this a policy change, or is he willing to let more tankers into Cuba now?
This is not a policy change. There has not been a formal change in sanction policy. As the president said last night, we allowed this ship to reach Cuba in order to provide humanitarian needs to the Cuban people. These decisions are being made on a case-by-case basis. And as the administration has said, Cuba's non-functional economy cannot be fixed unless they undergo dramatic political and leadership change. But there has been no formal change with respect to sanction policy.
So you could expect more tankers to go to Cuba?
Again, these decisions are being made on a case-by-case basis right now.
Meanwhile, United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the Iranian regime can never have nuclear weapons, and they need to stop sponsoring terrorism, and they need to stop building weapons that can threaten their neighbors. He made this statement during an exclusive to Al Jazeera.
What are your main demands for Iran at this particular stage of the war?
Iran can never, the Iranian regime can never have nuclear weapons, and they need to stop sponsoring terrorism, and they need to stop building weapons that can threaten their neighbors. These short-range missiles that they're launching, they only have one purpose, and that is to attack Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Qatar and Kuwait and Bahrain. That is the range of these weapons. And they have thousands of them. They've built extraordinary numbers of them, and not to mention, you know, their desire to have this nuclear weapon to threaten and blackmail the world with. That will never be allowed to happen. It's too great a risk.
What would you consider to be the minimum concession from Tehran to bring this conflict to an end?
I think they have to take demonstrable steps towards ending any ambition of having nuclear weapons. If what they want is nuclear energy, there are multiple countries in the region that have or will soon have nuclear energy, and they're going to do it through a well-established mechanism that everyone else has agreed to, and that is that you allow imported fuel to, you import the fuel, and that fuel is used to power up your power grid and provide energy resources for your people. What they cannot have is a system that allows them to quickly weaponize it. They have to stop making all of these drones and all of these missiles. We saw recently where they've lied. They said they didn't have long-range missiles, and then they fired two that extended well beyond the range of what their own foreign minister just a few days earlier said they didn't have the range to reach. So they have to abandon all these weapon programs and all of their nuclear ambitions, and if they do that, then Iran's future can be bright. But they have to choose that path, and for 47 years they've refused that path.
As the US-Israeli campaign continues, there's no clear indication that the Strait of Hormuz is secure enough to restore the flow of oil and gas into global markets. Are you consider a plan to ensure full control over the entire Strait?
Well, the Straits of Hormuz will be open. When this operation is over, it will be open, and it'll be open one way or another. It will be open because Iran agrees to abide by international law and not block the commercial waterway, or a coalition of nations from around the world and the region, with the participation of the United States, will make sure that it's open. One way or the other, it's going to be open.
My last question, if you don't mind. Do you have any sense of clarity about when the war is going to be over in the Middle East?
The operation in Iran, as soon as we achieve our objectives, as I've outlined them repeatedly, and that is we've destroyed their Navy, we've destroyed their Air Force, we are well on our way to destroying the majority of their arms factories, and we're well on our way to significantly degrading their missile launchers. When those objectives are achieved, we will have achieved the purpose of this operation, and that's something that's not going to take months. That's a matter of weeks. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many weeks, but a matter of weeks, not months.
What is Iran's response?
The Iranian Foreign Ministry on Monday denied having negotiations with the United States. The country's official IRNA news agency confirmed, reversing US President Donald Trump's earlier claim that Washington had reached major points of agreement with Iran and is in contact with a top person. The IRNA reported, citing Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, friendly countries recently sent messages to Iran indicating Washington's desire to begin talks on ending the war, but Iran has not responded. Kuwait Petroleum Corporation said that the Al Salmi tanker was struck in an Iranian attack while anchored at the port in the United Arab Emirates, causing damage to the vessel and a fire on board. Kuwaiti state news agency reported that KPC warned of a possible oil spill in surrounding waters. Authorities in Dubai said there was a drone attack on the Kuwaiti oil tanker overnight, and response teams had contained the incident.
In response to the rising global oil prices, the Cabinet of Ministers met yesterday and took several decisions to minimize the pressure on the people of this country. According to those decisions, it has been proposed that if the import cost of 92-octane petrol and auto diesel, which are most widely used by the public, exceeds the current retail selling price, the government will compensate the suppliers for that loss.
Taking into consideration the need for government intervention to control the price hikes of octane petrol, which is widely used by the public, and auto diesel, which is used for public transport, the Cabinet has approved a proposal presented by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. The proposal states that from March 22nd, 2026, if the import costs exceed the declared retail price, the government will provide relief to the public by controlling price increases. This will be done by paying fuel importers up to 20 rupees per litre for 92-octane petrol and up to 100 rupees per litre for auto diesel, thereby absorbing the loss and providing relief to the citizens. The next review of fuel prices is scheduled for the 1st of May. That means the new prices will be announced on the 30th of April to take effect on the 1st of May. Under the current circumstances, we are able to proceed without making any changes to the price until then. However, I must say that these conditions are subject to change. If the prices of crude oil and refined oil in the world market rise uncontrollably, today is the 31st of March, isn't it? No one can predict what might happen if the price per barrel reaches $150 or $180. Nevertheless, we have already placed orders for fuel, and those shipments are being received. With all these factors considered, our hope is not to increase fuel prices again during the month of April. We are doing our best to maintain the current status quo throughout the month of April.
While the general public is enduring the pressures of the war in the Middle East and the global energy crisis, patients who arrived today to seek healthcare services were severely affected due to a strike action launched by doctors. The Government Medical Officers Association launched this strike this morning, centering on an issue regarding transfers. They will continue the strike action until 8 a.m. tomorrow.
We are currently facing a severe crisis regarding post-intern appointments and the list of difficult service stations. Both these lists have been completely politicized due to political conspiracy, causing grave injustice to doctors. Consequently, this is causing immense hardship to the public as well. This is due to the resentment and dissatisfaction within the medical community triggered by these politicized lists. Nearly 130 difficult service stations from the post-intern appointment and difficult station lists have been arbitrarily and illegally scraped overnight.
These are the
members of the public who were inconvenienced by the strike launched to resolve the issue.
තෙල් ප්‍රශ්න එකයි මිනිස්සු බොහොම අමාරුවෙන් දුක් විඳගෙන ඉන්නේ බෙහෙත් ගන්න හරි අසාධාරණයි
මොන දේශපාලනය කරත් මොන ආණ්ඩුව මෙතන හිටියත් මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ආකල්ප වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැතුව මං හිතන්නේ මේ රට මෙතනින් එහාට අරා යන්න පුළුවන් ඒ කියලා
හැමදේම දීලානේ තියෙන්නේ දොස්තරලාට ඉල්ලන්නේ හැමදේම දීලාම තියෙන්නේ ඒකින්ද මේ පොඩි මිනිහා ගැනම හිතන්න ඕනේ ලොකු මිනිහාට නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රයිවට් එකයි දුප්පත් මිනිහා මොනව කරන්නද අහිංසක ජීවිත කියන්නේ නැති වෙයිද අද
දැන් මාස 3කට ආයි බෙහෙත් දිනේ තියෙන්නේ කවුද බෙහෙත් දෙන්නේ
ගිය මාසේ බේට් ටික අරගෙන යන්න ක්‍රමයක් හදන්න බැරිද මේ ස්ට්‍රයික් කරන දවසට? මේ කුරුණෑගල යාපනයේ නුවර හලාවත දුෂ්කර පළාත්වල ඉඳලා මිනිස්සු එන්නේ රුපියල් 500ක් වань ආයේ මේ ගමන. හෙට එන්න මොකද මම ආයේ?
ඉස්සරහම අපි දැන් මේ වෙලාවේ රස්තිය ආදිනනේ දරුවෝ ඉස්කෝලේ නැතුව අපි ආවේ මේවට. ඇත්තට මේව හරි පව්.
This is the response of the Health Minister today regarding the government medical officer strike.
කිසිදු ආකාරයේ නීති විරෝධී ස්ථානමාරුවක් සිදු කළ නැහැ.
No illegal transfers of any kind have been carried out. We are currently processing the annual transfers. By the 10th of May, approximately 6,000 doctors are scheduled to be transferred. A formal transfer process like this has not taken place in the last 13 years. Although they claim to have been on those transfer boards, some members of that union stayed in the same stations for 13 or even 17 years. Some stayed at the eye hospital for 13 years, unable to enter their assigned national hospital. Therefore, we are stopping all these irregularities and implementing the annual transfer process. At a time when people all over the world are struggling to manage their lives amidst this energy crisis and economic issues, if anyone carries out strikes in such an illegal and inhumane manner, I think it needs to be seriously reconsidered. They began this trade action not even 50 days after Cyclone Titwa. Today, while a state of war exists, these individuals have resorted to trade actions and strikes. I ask you to look at which country in the world operates in this manner. We cannot allow this to happen. Therefore, please, those who are willing to work, continue your duties. Those who work will receive their salaries and additional allowances. The government stands firm on this decision.
මේකේ රාජ්‍ය ස්ථාවර තීන්දුවක ඉන්නවා.
Protect our cricket.
We have continuously pointed out how cricket, a sport loved by the entire nation, has been distanced from victory day by day after being made a victim of crony capitalism. Today, we take another step forward in this expose. This is a prime example of how crony capitalism was established while systematically destroying Sri Lankan cricket.
We have repeatedly pointed out how, by altering rules and maneuvering through various loopholes, opportunities were created for crony capitalism to infiltrate cricket administration. The ultimate result of this crony clique administering cricket as they pleased over the years was the failure to reach even a quarter-final in an ICC tournament for a decade. This is Nalin Aponsu. Nalin is a member of the Executive Committee of Sri Lanka Cricket. To hold any position in Sri Lanka cricket, except for treasurer and assistant treasurer, one must have played first-class cricket. So, did Nalin Aponsu play first-class cricket to qualify for the Executive Committee? According to Cricinfo, Nalin Aponsu played his first and only cricket match at the age of 39. He represented the Siduwa Radduluwa Cricket Club. Listed as a left-handed batsman and a right-arm spin bowler, Nalin Aponsu did not bowl a single ball in this match. Facing 5 deliveries, he managed to score just 1 run. In this match held in Panagoda, Nalin Aponsu batted last. That is how Nalin earned the qualification to enter the Cricket Executive Committee. There is also a curious story regarding this cricket club. On the Cricinfo website, the club he played for is mentioned by 3 different names: Siduwa Radduluwa CC, Sri Lanka Ports Authority or SLPACC, and Ace Capital CC. Nalin Aponsu, a member of the Sri Lanka Cricket Executive Committee, is also an additional managing director at the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. According to an agreement reached in August 2011 between Nalin Aponsu and Priyantha Thisera, who is a Ports Authority employee, the name of the Radduluwa Cricket Club was changed to Sri Lanka Ports Authority Cricket Club. Later, Priyantha Thisera resigned from the post of General Secretary of the club, and Nalin Aponsu was appointed to fill that vacancy. From that point on, the club's members were given jobs at the Ports Authority, while their salaries and club expenses were borne by the state. Nalin Aponsu played his sole match on the 16th of March of the following year, only after the club was brought under the Ports Authority. This club, which secured millions in partnerships from various companies connected to the port, has been identified as Ace Capital since the 9th of September 2020. Since the SLPA Cricket Club was a registered member of Sri Lanka Cricket at the time, it was also eligible to receive annual grants from SLC. It was revealed during the COPE committee meeting in Parliament on the 13th of November 2025 that the club had received 11,079,800 rupees in 2015, 7,671,500 rupees in 2016, 8,338,000 rupees in 2017, 12,288,750 rupees in 2018 and 11,333,500 rupees in 2019.
ඒ ක්ලබ් එක දැන් වෙන කෙනෙක් අතේ නෙති. දැන් මැනේජ්මන්ට් දැන් කවුද ඒකේ කමිටි එක?
ඒ කමිටි එකේ හිටපු අර මේ කන්ස්ටිටියුෂන් එකේ තියෙන 15ක්
වරාය අධිකාරී වැඩ කරපු අය කවුරු හරි එතන ඒ වෙනකොට මේ මැනේජ්මන්ට් කමිටි එකේ හිටපු අය දැන් ඉන්නවද අතන?
ඔව් එතන ඉන්නවා. මම ඉන්නවා ප්‍රියන්ත තිසේර මේ ක්ලබ් එක අයිති මේ ක්ලබ් එක බාර දුන්න එක්කෙනා ඉන්නවා. කීප දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. වරාය අධිකාරිය
සමාජයේ අනුත්නම ආපු යාලගේ දැන් නම් වෙනස් වෙලා නේද යාලගේ? අපේ
දැන් ඒස් කැපිටල් කියලා තියෙනවා.
ඒ ක්‍රීඩා සමාජයේ දැන් අපේ මේ වරායධිකාරියත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධයක් නැහැ නේද? දැන් ඒ අලුත් ක්‍රීඩා සමාජය ඔබතුමා තනතුරක් දරනවද?
මම පළවෙනි පරණ එකෙත් දැරුවා දැනුත් දරනවා සීදුව රද්දුල තියෙද්දිත් දැරුවා.
අධ්‍යක්ෂ මණ්ඩලයෙන් තොරව දැන් මේ වගේ අධිකාරිය මුදල් වියදම් කළා ක්‍රිකට් ක්ලබ් එක අරගෙන පවත්වාගෙන ගිහිල්ලා ඊට පස්සේ එහෙම කරන්න මැනේජ්මන්ට් කමිටි එකට විතරක් මේකක් තියෙනවා බලයක් පැවරෙනවා.
This was the match played to take over a cricket club under the Ports Authority, pay salaries from state funds, take money from port-related companies and the cricket board, and play a single match just to grab a high-ranking position. This is how crony capitalism tightened its grip on Sri Lanka cricket. Delaying further to put a stop to this will only result in cricket victories drifting further away, day by day. Traitors, your mandate with the people has now ended. You have already betrayed that public trust. The things you have done are coming back to haunt you. Do not forget that the entire country is now united to save cricket. When will the law be enforced against this gang that has dragged our cricket into the grave for over 10 years, failing to fulfill even the vision and mission of the institution that they govern?
Who is most suitable to lead opposition politics?
Tissa Attanayaka says that while there is no necessity to implement everything spoken of by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, the government should make use of realistic points contained in his statements. Tissa Attanayaka holds the position of national organizer of the Samagijana Balawegya, which is the party led by Sajith Premadasa.
විවිධ ප්‍රකාශ කරගෙන යනවා. අපිට මතකයි පෞගේ කාලේ කිව්ව මේ නැත්ත දේවතාව කෙතුමාට ආරාධනා කරා කියලා. ඒ වගේම දැන් මේ පොළොවල ලියාගෙන ඇවිල්ලා නොයෙකුත් ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. දැන් මේක පුළුවන් රටවල් පාලනය කරන්න දුන්නෝ කියන විදිහ.
ඇත්තටම මෙහෙමයි. Not everything said needs to be implemented. What we are saying is that if the government reflects on what we point out and tries to adopt the good points, better results could be achieved. This doesn't mean the government must accept every single statement made by Sajith Premadasa based on his years of experience and the information he gathers. However, the point is for the government to understand the realism in his remarks and make use of them. There is no need to do everything Sajith Premadasa says.
යථාර්ථවාදී බව තේරුම් අරගෙන එයින් ආණ්ඩුව ප්‍රයෝජනයක් ගන්න කියන කෙනෙක් කියන්නේ සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමා කියන ඒවා ඔක්කොම කරන්න ඕන නෑ.
Meanwhile, Samagijana Balawegya MP Kins Nelson points out that opposition parties can unite under the leadership of Sajith Premadasa.
ඒ සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ නායක ගරු සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමාගේ නායකත්වයෙන් තමයි පොදු විපක්ෂයක් විදියට ඒකට නායකත්වය දෙන ගරු සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමාගේ නායකත්වයෙන් අපි තමයි ඕනම මැතිවරණයක අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. අපේ පක්ෂෙත් එක්ක ඕන කෙනෙකුට එකතු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ගරු සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමාගේ නායකත්වයෙන් අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඉදිරියේදී පැවැත්වෙන ඕනම මැතිවරණයක් සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ ප්‍රධාන කොටගෙන
The SLPP states that they will contest future elections under the leadership of their own party.
As a political movement that has placed its trust in democracy and the electoral system, we will field candidates for any election, be it provincial council, presidential, parliamentary or local government. We make those decisions by analysing the political phenomena and developments emerging at that specific time through a political lens.
What has happened to the opposition? Here is the analysis from the Frontline Socialist Party.
When the opposition presents very petty criticisms instead of any logical critics, the government is able to show the public what these people are saying and show what their actual concerns are. So the public, at least the intelligent people, realizes that what the opposition is doing is actually a joke. Because the opposition has become a joke, the government has been able to play such political games with the people. Not only is there no opposition in the country, but there is no political movement within parliament to represent the real issues of the people and exert a political influence on them. During the last general election, our slogan was "Let's change the opposition." We stated then that if the opposition wasn't changed, the country would have to face this exact problem. We want that this government would succeed by using its historical moral power and its ability to engage in logical political maneuvering to completely paralyze this incompetent opposition. In other words, we said the opposition would be turned into a joke, and now that has happened.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the Colombo Municipal Council and the Colonava Urban Council violated fundamental rights by illegally dumping waste on the land known as Potuvilkumbura in Mitotamulla. The ruling was delivered in a fundamental rights petition filed by a group of residents from the area, including attorney-at-law Nuan Bopake.
The petition was heard before a three-judge bench of the Supreme Court consisting of Chief Justice Preethipadman Surasena and Justices Yasantha Kodagoda and Priyantha Fernando. Delivering the judgment, Justice Yasantha Kodagoda stated that the Colombo Municipal Council had taken steps to dump waste collected from Colombo City at the Potuvilkumbura site in Mitotamulla. The judgment further notes that the illegal dumping of this garbage caused a major disaster in 2017 when the relevant garbage mound collapsed. The Supreme Court judgment highlights that by illegally dumping waste in the area between 2009 and 2017, the Colombo Municipal Council and the Colonava Urban Council violated the fundamental human rights of the residents guaranteed under Article 12(1) of the Constitution.
The official launch of Imtiaz Bakir Markar's latest book titled Ma Akameti JR, which translates to The JR I Dislike, took place in Colombo yesterday.
The official launch of the book, The JR I Disliked by Imtiaz Bakir Markar, was held in Colombo yesterday. Addressing the event, political activist Rehan Joy Vikram emphasized that the past should not be blindly rejected, but rather studied and learned from.
The younger generation now confronts questions that echo the past. What kind of state should Sri Lanka build? What power should it centralize and what power should it devolve? How should economic growth be balanced with social protection? What does leadership look like in a multi-ethnic democracy? How do we rebuild political trust after crisis? None of these questions are new. They, ladies and gentlemen, are inherited. But inheritance does not require repetition. It requires responsibility. Our task is not to replicate the past, nor is it to reject it blindly. Our task is to bridge it, learn from it, and build differently where necessary. From the legacy of President Jayawardena, several lessons emerge for civic reformers today. This brings me to the importance of books like the one we launched today. Leaders should be written about. Their ideas should be studied. Their decisions should be debated, not to settle old scores, but to build a culture where learning and making mistakes is entirely possible. The younger generation needs to be nurtured. The younger generation needs to take this country forward. And it is the sole responsibility of the seniors that have held senior positions in this country to nurture the younger generation, to foster the younger generation, and to make sure that it is the younger generation that takes Sri Lanka forward.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.